Hello learners, welcome to online learning platform Udemy and welcome to BITA Safety Training Academy. We are one of the largest health, safety, and environment training provider. This course is about hazard communication. Hazard communication, also known as HAZCOM, is a set of processes and procedures that employers and importers must implement in the workplace to effectively communicate hazards associated with chemicals during handling, shipping, and any form of exposure. This course has two modules. Module 1 is Controls and Labeling and Module 2 is SDS, that is Safety Data Sheets. Module 1, Controls and Labeling. In this module we are going to learn about 16 sub-modules and they are listed below. Introduction. OSHA's top 10 cited standards. The HAZCOM standard. The GHS process. Global Harmonization System, GHS. Hazardous substances and chemicals. Chemical effects. Routes of entry. Chemical hazard control strategies. Types of containers and labels. Primary container label requirements. Secondary container label requirements. Portable container labeling. Labeling solid materials. HCS 2012 pictogram requirements. HCS pictograms and hazards. Learning outcome of Module 1. Describe the basic sections of the HCS 2012 standard. Describe benefits of the Global Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals, GHS. Define hazardous substances and give examples of physical and health hazards. Describe the chemical effects and 4 primary routes of entry when employees are exposed. Discuss the hierarchy of controls for controlling chemical hazards. List the types of chemical containers and the labeling requirements for each type. Describe the 9 HCS pictograms and the hazards they represent. Module 2 is SDS, that is Safety Data Sheets. In this module we are going to learn about 8 sub-modules and they are listed below. The SDS form. SDS management. Employer responsibilities. Training requirements. Training topics. Training at multi-employer worksites. Training temporary employees. Training for emergencies. Learning outcomes of Module 2 are, discuss the purpose of the Safety Data Sheet, SDS. Describe the SDS requirements for manufacturers, distributors, importers, and employers. List and describe each of the required 16 sections of the SDS. Discuss employee training requirements for the HCS 2012 program. Discuss HCS 2012 requirements on multi-employer worksites. Let's begin the course with Module 1, Controls and Labeling. More than 30 million workers are potentially exposed to one or more chemical hazards in the workplace. There are an estimated 650,000 existing hazardous chemical products and hundreds of new ones are being introduced annually. This poses a serious challenge for employers as well as a health and safety hazard for exposed employees. Because of the seriousness of these safety and health problems, and because many employers and employees know little or nothing about them, OSHA issued the original Hazard Communication Standard, HCS, in 1994. The basic goal of the standard is to be sure employers and employees know about work hazards and how to protect themselves. This should help to reduce the incidence of chemical source illness and injuries. As you can see below, hazard communication is close to the top of OSHA's top 10 cited standards and is consistently at or near the top each year. OSHA's top 10 most cited standards. The following were the top 10 most frequently cited standards by federal OSHA in fiscal year 2016. Fall protection. Hazard communication. Scaffolding. Respiratory protection. Control of hazardous energy, lockout/tagout. Powered industrial trucks. Ladders, construction. Machine guarding, machines, general requirements, general industry. Electrical, wiring methods, components and equipment. Electrical systems design, general requirements. In March 2012, The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, revised its hazard communication standard to align it with the United Nations Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals, GHS. The Hazard Communication Standard. The HAZCOM standard gives below recommendations and guidelines. If you're exposed to hazardous chemicals at work, OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard, 29 CFR 1910.1200, will help you identify the hazards of those materials and how to use them safely. Your employer must also teach you about the protective measures when working with hazardous chemicals. When you have this important information, you will be able to take steps to protect yourself from the negative effects caused by accidental exposure. The GHS process. OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard, HCS, requires employers and manufacturers to develop and distribute chemical information as described below. Chemical manufacturers and importers must classify the hazards of the chemicals they produce or import and prepare labels and safety data sheets to convey the hazard information to their downstream customers. Employers with classified hazardous chemicals in their workplaces must have labels and safety data sheets for their exposed workers, and train workers to safely handle those chemicals. As mentioned above, the standard requires your employer to provide information to employees about the hazardous chemicals to which they are exposed, by means of a hazard communication program, labels and other forms of warning, safety data sheets, and information and training. Employers who do not produce or import chemicals need only focus on those parts of this rule that deal with establishing a workplace program and communicating information to their workers.